Ignored by love, respected by a maid, the billionaire's unexpected story. Adrian Vale had everything money could measure and nothing the heart could keep. At 38, he was the youngest tech billionaire in the country, a man whose name flashed across financial headlines and whose signature could move markets. His penthouse overlooked the glittering spine of the city, a cathedral of glass and steel suspended above the ordinary world. From up there, traffic looked like silent rivers of light and people like moving dots without stories. But Adrian had a story, one he never told. He had built his empire from a cramped apartment with peeling wallpaper and a second-hand laptop that overheated every hour. He had coded through hunger, through doubt, through the humiliation of investors who dismissed him as too young and too ambitious. He endured it all for one reason, Elena. Elena Marquez had been his classmate at university. She had sunlight in her laugh and a certainty about the world that made Adrian feel braver just standing near her. When he confessed his love during their final year, she didn't laugh. She didn't mock him. She simply smiled with polite distance and said, "You're brilliant, Adrian. But I need someone established. Stable." He knew what she meant. He wasn't stable. He was a gamble. Elena married a rising corporate lawyer 2 years later. Adrian sent no message, made no call. He buried himself in code and contracts and relentless ambition. If he couldn't be chosen, he would become undeniable. Years passed. His startup exploded into a global platform. Investors who once ignored him now competed for his attention. Magazines placed him on covers with titles like Visionary and Disruptor. His penthouse filled with art, rare whiskey, and silence. He told himself he had won. Then one autumn evening, at a charity gala he had funded but barely wanted to attend, he saw Elena again. She stood beneath a chandelier, wearing silver silk, speaking to a cluster of executives. She looked almost the same, still luminous, still poised. But when her eyes met his across the room, there was something new in them. Calculation. "Adrian," she said later, approaching him with a practiced warmth. "It's been so long." He studied her face. "It has." They spoke about safe topics. Business, travel, mutual acquaintances. She mentioned, almost casually, that her marriage had ended the previous year. "It wasn't what I thought it would be," she said, her voice softening. "People change. Or perhaps expectations do," Adrian thought. As the evening wore on, she laughed more freely at his comments. She touched his arm when she spoke. She suggested they meet for dinner to catch up properly. For a moment, a foolish, dangerous moment, the younger version of himself stirred. The one who had waited outside her lectures just to walk her home. The one who had believed love was about persistence. But he also saw what she saw now. Not the boy with big dreams, but the billionaire with global influence. "Of course," he replied smoothly. "Have my assistant coordinate." He returned to his penthouse that night unsettled. The city lights no longer looked triumphant. They looked interrogative. Waiting inside was Mira. Mira had worked for him for 3 years. Officially, she was part of the housekeeping staff hired through an agency. Unofficially, she was the quiet presence who kept the vast apartment from feeling like a museum. She moved softly, spoke sparingly, and had a habit of leaving fresh flowers on the dining table every Monday. She was in her early 40s, with streaks of silver in her dark hair and eyes that noticed everything. "You're home later than usual, sir," she said gently as she collected an empty glass from the counter. "Charity event," he replied, loosening his tie. "You don't look pleased." He almost laughed. Most people saw only his composure, his sharp suits, his curated confidence. Mira saw the tension in his shoulders. "I met someone from my past," he said. She nodded, not prying. "Someone I once loved," he added, surprising himself. Mira paused. And she seems to have discovered I exist." There was no bitterness in his tone, only weariness. Mira resumed arranging the flowers. "Some people only recognize value when it becomes visible. And some," he asked, "some recognize it when it is still becoming." He looked at her then, really looked. She wasn't speaking about him as a billionaire. She was speaking about him as a man. In the following weeks, Elena and Adrian met several times. They dined at exclusive restaurants, attended art exhibits, took helicopter rides over the coastline. Elena was attentive, admiring. She spoke about second chances and timing and how foolish youth could be. "You were always destined for greatness," she told him one evening, candlelight flickering across her face. "I just didn't see how far you'd go." He wondered if she heard herself. Meanwhile, his interactions with Mira remained simple. She asked if he had eaten. She reminded him to rest. Once, when she found him asleep on the couch with his laptop open, she draped a blanket over him and quietly turned off the lights. One Sunday morning, Adrian found her in the kitchen, examining a cracked vase. "It can be repaired," she murmured. "It's inexpensive," he said. "Replace it." She shook her head. "It has history. Replacing it is easy. Restoring it is meaningful." He leaned against the doorway. "You think everything can be restored?" "Not everything," she replied. "Only what was genuine to begin with." The words lingered. A week later, Elena invited him to a private gathering at her friend's villa. The evening shimmered with luxury. Conversations revolved around investments, properties, acquisitions. More than once, Adrian noticed how often Elena mentioned his achievements, how proudly she introduced him. "This is Adrian," she would say. "The founder, the genius behind it all." But when discussions drifted away from wealth, when someone asked about his early struggles or what kept him awake at night, she smoothly redirected the topic. On the drive home, Adrian felt an unexpected emptiness. He arrived at the penthouse past midnight. Mira was still there, finishing her tasks. "You shouldn't stay this late," he said. She smiled faintly. "I had extra ironing." He hesitated. "Do you think people can fall in love with success instead of a person?" She considered carefully. "Yes. And is that wrong?" "It depends," she said. "If they love the success because it reflects your hard work, your resilience, your character, then perhaps they love you through it. But if they love it because it benefits them," she let the sentence fade. He sank into a chair. "How do you tell the difference?" "Remove the success," she said quietly. "See who remains." The opportunity came sooner than he expected. A market crisis struck without warning. A sudden regulatory shift overseas triggered a chain reaction. His company's stock plummeted. Media outlets speculated aggressively. Though the foundation of his business remained strong, public perception wavered. Overnight, headlines changed tone. Elena called him immediately. "I'm sure this is temporary," she said, though her voice carried strain. "But perhaps we should postpone the trip to Monaco until things stabilize." He listened in silence. "And maybe," she continued carefully, "it's not the best time for us to be seen everywhere together. The press can be ruthless." "Us." He understood. In the days that followed, her messages grew less frequent. Excuses replaced invitations. The warmth cooled. Inside the penthouse, however, nothing changed. Mira brought him coffee during early morning conference calls. She left encouraging notes on his desk, short, handwritten lines like, "Storms reveal strong foundations." She never asked about stock prices. She asked if he had slept. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, Adrian found her in the living room polishing the repaired vase. The crack was visible but filled with fine gold resin. "You fixed it," he said. "It's stronger now," she replied. "The break is part of its story." He looked at the vase, then at her. "Mira," he said slowly, "why do you treat me with such respect?" She seemed startled. "Because you deserve it. Even now. Especially now." He swallowed. "Why?" "Because I have seen you when no cameras were present. I have seen you pay for your driver's daughter's surgery without telling anyone. I have seen you work until dawn not for applause, but because you believe in what you built." Wealth did not create those qualities. It revealed them. No one had ever spoken to him like that. Not investors. Not journalists. Not Elena. He realized, with a clarity that hurt, that while Elena admired what he had become, Mira respected who he was. A month later, the crisis stabilized. The company rebounded stronger than before. Analysts praised his leadership under pressure. Invitations flooded back in. So did Elena. "I knew you'd handle it," she said brightly over lunch. "You're unstoppable." He watched her across the table and felt nothing. Not anger. Not longing. Just recognition. "Elena," he said gently, "when you first turned me down years ago, I thought it was because I wasn't enough. Then I believed becoming successful would change that. But I understand now, it was never about enough. It was about what you value." Her smile faltered. "Adrian, I hope you find what you're looking for," he finished kindly. He paid the bill and walked away, not triumphant, but free. That evening, he returned home earlier than usual. Mira was arranging fresh lilies. "I made a decision today," he told her. She glanced up. "A good one?" "Yes." He stepped closer. "I've spent years trying to be chosen by someone who saw my future but not my present. All this time, the person who saw me clearly was already here." Understanding dawned slowly in her eyes, followed by uncertainty. "Sir Adrian," he corrected softly. He didn't offer grand declarations or promises wrapped in extravagance. He offered honesty. I don't know what this could become, he said. But I know respect is rarer than admiration. And I would rather build something on what is real. For the first time, Mira looked unsure. Our worlds are very different. They don't have to be, he replied. Not if we meet in the middle. Outside, the city shimmered as it always had. But from the penthouse, the lights no longer looked distant. They looked like possibilities. Adrian Vale had once believed love was about being impressive enough to earn someone's choice. Now he understood it was about being seen without the armor. Ignored by the woman he once adored, he had chased success to prove his worth. In the end, it wasn't the applause of the world that filled the silence of his home. It was the quiet respect of someone who had valued him long before the world decided he mattered. 1500 WAD.